Long before any kingdom had a name worth remembering, the world held its breath in a twilight that lasted ages. Things grew, but they didn't live. They moved, but they didn't change. Trees stood like monuments to a time before thought, and dragons ruled the sky without ever knowing the concept of fear. And somewhere, within that static silence, a flame appeared. Not a fire, not yet, just the idea of one. A spark that created its own consequences. Light demanded darkness. Warmth demanded cold. Life demanded death. And the world was stuck right down the middle. And from that split rose the beings that would shape everything and one day lose this flame. The lost witch of Izalith, Gwyn, Gravelord Nito, and the small, patient shape that history wouldn't notice until it was too late. But this is not their story. It's a story of what came after. Your story begins not with a hero, but with the body in a cell. You awaken hollow, discarded by a world that has already begun to forget its own glories. No prophecy names you, no god demands your presence, yet you are the chosen one. Not because of destiny, but because the world needs someone willing to walk toward its collapsing truth. The very act of rising from the undead asylum is defiance, an assertion that even in obscurity, action matters. Lordran is a kingdom built on ash. Cities sag under centuries of neglect, and the air carries memories of better days. Dragons lie in bone and shadow. Knights rust inside armor. Gods retreat behind walls, illusions, or denial. Every ruin tells a story. Every creature carries history. The Chosen One inherits not glory, but the weight of a kingdom that refuses to die gracefully. Walking here is walking through memory itself, feeling the pulse of what was and what is fading. The NPCs are echoes, not just companions. Solaire pursuing a son he invented, clinging to hope as it belief itself can illuminate truth. Siegmeyer seeks purpose in a world that seems determined to strip it away. Laurentius clings to kindness as the world itself tries to strip it away. Rhea fights for a faith in a kingdom that devours it. Each encounter forces reflection. Can hope persist when the world itself refuses it? The Chosen One bears witness, not savior, and in their journey you feel the fragility of human resolve. Each lord slain, every soul claimed, every bonfire lit teaches a lesson. Gwyn did not save the world, he delayed it. The Chosen One steps into repetition, into inheritance, and yet in that repetition lies a question. If faced with cycles older than memory, will you act as they did, or will you choose differently? The answer is not handed to you. It is earned in each step, in each choice that carries the weight of history. Sen's Fortress, in Orlando, the kiln of the first flame, they are not merely places but trials of endurance. Gwyn himself is not a villain, but a caution. A god hollowed by fear and duty. The final confrontation is not a fight between good and evil, it is confrontation with legacy itself. The Chosen One must decide whether to extend an age built on denial or step away and allow darkness to claim its due. This is the first time the player is asked, what does it mean to be chosen? What does it mean to act when the world itself demands repetition? The world itself tests morality. The fire flickers and fades, revealing truths the undead may prefer to ignore. Each victory, each encounter with the Hollow, challenges the illusion of control. The Chosen One does not save, they endure, they observe, and they question. They ask the player to consider the cost of action versus inaction, and what it truly means to walk forward in a world that has already begun to crumble. The end of a journey presents choice as philosophy rather than triumph. To link the flame is to accept the world's cycles, to shoulder the burdens of the past, to walk away is to confront uncertainty, to let darkness rise, and to allow history to end naturally. Either choice asks the same question. Will you perpetuate the past, or let it finally die? The Chosen One, in quiet defiance, is the player's mirror, a figure shaped by endurance, by memory, and by human agency. And this choice is why Dark Souls hits differently. Because FromSoft wasn't telling you a story, they were handing you a world and saying figure it out. This design philosophy reshaped modern gaming. Suddenly devs realized players wanted to struggle, they wanted to explore, and they wanted to connect the dots, and they wanted to build a community-driven lore. Souls-like became a genre because the industry finally understood what Dark Souls 1 proved. Challenge isn't a flaw, it's a language, and that's why Dark Souls became a cult classic. Not just because it was hard, but because it respected the player's intelligence more than anything else at the time. Leaving Lordran doesn't end the story, it just sets the first thread that another cursed soul will eventually pick up. And that soul is the bearer of the curse. Time in Drangleic is no longer linear. Memory slips like sand, leaving Hollows drift alone in a kingdom that cannot remember itself. The bearer of the curse wakes, untethered, unsure even of their own identity. They wander not because destiny commands it, because stopping would mean erasure. Fear of disappearing drives them forward. In Drangleic, every step is both survival and reflection. Every ruin and empty street asking, when everything repeats, will you repeat too? Drangleic is a kingdom built on ambition and failure. Towers, castles, and battlegrounds stand frozen, monuments of past mistakes. The Emerald Herald speaks softly, bearing the burden of truth.
Go on and see the king. He who made Drangleic what it once was. He who peered at the essence of the soul. King Vendrick.
But the king is not a solution. He is a wound carved into the land itself. Vendrick's hubris, his succumbing to fragments of Manus, poisoned his kingdom, while Nashandra waits, manipulating grief and desire to perpetuate cycles of suffering. Here, the world itself becomes a question: will history repeat, and will you allow it? The NPCs mirror the bearer's journey. Lucatiel fades, losing memory and identity, a reflection of what could befall anyone who succumbs to despair. Ben Hart sinks valor against futility. Creighton and Pate drift through ambition and misfortune. None are allies in the conventional sense. All are fragments of a drifting, broken humanity. The bearer does not save them, but through witnessing their fates, the player confronts the fragility of perseverance. In each encounter, the game asks, how much do you carry, and what will you do with it? Because the kingdom's decay is omnipresent. Every great soul claimed carries the weight of history rotting in the bearer's hand. Every enemy is a lesson in repetition. Unlike Lordran, Drangleic does not pretend that victory brings clarity or glory. Power is hollow, the throne is the trap. The bearer's journey is a meditation on endurance, asking whether the player can recognize cycles and refuse to perpetuate them. Will you sit and repeat mistakes, or walk away and break the pattern? Each boss, each castle, each fragment of history reinforces the same question. The bearer of the curse is a mirror, reflecting the chosen one's actions through time. Endurance here is not triumph, it is observation and quiet defiance. The Hollowed walks in the player's footsteps, and every choice carries philosophical weight. What does it mean to act when the world itself seems determined to repeat? And what does it mean to step aside? Drangleic itself asks questions of morality. Victory over the Rotten, the Old Iron King, and other great foes is not power, but understanding. Nassandra's manipulation, Vendrick's failings, and the decayed kingdom demand reflection. If cycles exist, will you perpetuate them or resist? The bearer does not impose answers. They embody choice, endurance, and the human capacity to refuse predetermined repetition. Even in the final act, the throne room, the confrontation with the king, the decision to sit or walk away is a meditation. Sitting continues the cycle, but walking defies it too. Drangleic asks the player, when everything repeats, will you repeat too? The bearer's journey is a mirror to the player, teaching that sometimes the most meaningful act is choosing not to perpetuate the mistakes of the past. And through it all, the bearer is defined by recurrence. Where the chosen one was persistence, the bearer reflects memory, repetition, and the quiet courage of refusal. The choices here echo into the Ashen One time, creating a connective tissue of cycles, question, and human endurance. Each step is a philosophical, every decision is a meditation on time, memory, and morality. This philosophical backbone is part of why Dark Souls 2, despite its controversies, became massively influential. It widened the series' themes, it pushed the idea that even sequels could question their own identity, and it proved that a Souls game can stand on its own philosophy, not just its mechanics. The bearer's journey ultimately shaped what Dark Souls 3 would become, a meditation on inheritance, memory, and what's left at the end of all cycles. And when Drake dissolves, the world doesn't reset, it drifts into something colder, older, and closer to its final collapse. And the next figure to rise from the ruins is the Ashen One. The Ashen One rises from ash in a world that remembers itself too much. Lothric, Ithriel, Farron, and the profane capital are a mosaic of memory and decay. Past kingdoms bleed into the present. Time folds, history collapses, and fire hovers between existence and extinction. You rise not because destiny calls, but because necessity demands it. You were not chosen, cursed, or destined, only needed. And the world asks, when all else has failed, will you endure? The NPCs are humanity's final echoes. Gale seeks the dark soul to create a new future, consuming remnants of the past, succumbing to the darkness within. Frida refuses the cycle, hiding in eternal winter, tragically denying motion and flame. Henri mirrors the Ashen One's path, love and revenge tangled in tragedy. The Firekeeper witnesses all endings, holding hope that the world may survive without flame. Each interaction is a meditation on endurance, choice, and the cost of human desire. The world itself challenges perception. Lothric fuses fragments of Lordran, Draclaic, and older forgotten kingdoms. Farron endlessly battles itself. Ithriel is frozen in time, and profane capital burns without warmth. The Ashen One walks through a tapestry of memory, each ruin, each battlefield, asking, what will you do when history collapses in on itself? Will you act, endure, or simply witness? The battle reflects philosophy. Confronting Gale is not just combat, but the culmination of humanity's struggle, preserving the possibility of a new world. Fighting Frida is acknowledging that even refusal cannot halt the relentless march of cycles. Henri's story is shaped by your actions, illustrating love, hope, and choice's fragility. The Firekeeper offers a vision of a world unbound by gods, asking whether you will trust humanity to walk on its own. Every encounter forces reflection. What is legacy? What is endurance? How do choices resonate across time? Here, the Ashen One embodies inheritance, the culmination of persistence and recurrence. Where the Chosen One witnessed and the Bearer reflected, the Ashen One carries the sum of all cycles, confronting memory, collapse, and the final question of human existence. The final act, extinguishing or linking the flame, crystallizes the series' philosophy. Choice is not heroic, it is philosophical. Action defines meaning, not morality. Flame or dark, motion or stillness, the world asks you the same question: what will you do when there is no one left to guide you? The Ashen One answers not with glory, but with endurance, humanity, and reflection. Dark Souls 3 cements the trilogy's legacy. This game closed out an era of design, deliberate difficulty, environmental storytelling, cryptic lore, and player-driven narrative. They pushed the industry into a new age. Games stopped handholding. They started trusting players again, and the impact is everywhere. Hollow Knight, Neo, Jedi Fallen Order, Elden Ring, Blasphemous, Remnant, the list goes on. And Dark Souls didn't just inspire games, it rewired how modern games think. In the final moments, link the flame, let it die, or hand it to the Firekeeper. You aren't picking endings. You're choosing philosophies. You're choosing and what you think humanity deserves. And that's how you know the trilogy changed gaming. It turned video games into conversations. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This took forever to record, write the script, and do everything, make sure everything was okay. I hope all of you enjoyed it as much as I have. And this game series is definitely it's probably my favorite series of all. I love FromSoft. I love all the games. I'm currently beating Sekiro right now, and I might do a video on that. Let me know if you want to see a video on that. I'm trying to make a video about every Dark Souls. Demon Souls is probably gonna be the last one. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and join the new Discord server that we started up, and I will see you all in the next video, which will maybe not be a video essay, but yeah, I'm gonna start releasing stuff that I've had in my little bank, so see y'all on the other side.